now take you to South Africa, where the parliament is set to debate whether to initiate proceedings to remove scandal-engulfed President Cyril Ramaphosa from office. We now hear from the Speaker of Parliament, Ngakula.
All right, okay, sorry. Honorable Dr. Dlozi, let me start. The person that pen like a city. And I had to hold back. We haven't seen you in Parliament, and the first time we see you, you are heckling. Yes, Honorable Zakute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to remind all of us sitting here, especially the chief whips of all political parties. We had a special NAPC meeting where this matter was discussed. So today we are dealing with a report. According to the rules, the report needs only 134 members plus one to approve it. So we agreed in that special NAPC meeting that the method of voting that we are going to use today. So we cannot have people with afterthoughts come and try to derail the proceedings of this House. So the method of voting was agreed upon in the programming committee, which is a committee that takes decisions about the proceedings of the House. We are not going to change it
Speaker,
today. Thanks.
What is Doris says?
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Speaker, what?
I have not recognized you.
But on what grounds? On what grounds did you recognize Doris?
Honorable Member, sit down.
Why was Doris speaking? On what grounds? On what rule?
Honorable Dlozi.
Can you be consistent with the application of the rules, Honorable Speaker?
Please take
Why
your
was
seat.
Doris speaking now?
Honorable
On what
Dlozi,
rule?
Take your seat. She spoke because I recognized her. Sit down, Honorable Dlozi. And will you... No, don't do that. We have a long day, actually. Don't do that. Honorable Malema.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like you to call Honorable Doris to order, because you know, sitting there, that you cannot cite a rule she was standing on. She was not standing under any rule. And don't do that when you are presiding over Parliament. So what she said, she was out of order, and please
Honorable
rule her
member,
out of
please,
order, please.
I can hardly hear, please. Honorable member. Okay, honorable members, I see you at the hand, but I will not allow you to speak at the back. I won't allow you for now to speak. Allow me, honorable members, to make this ruling. Honorable members, the Speaker is empowered to exercise her discretion in determining the voting method to be employed to decide questions before the House, where no voting method is prescribed in the rules of the Assembly. In deciding whether to have an open or secret ballot on the vote, the Speaker must be guided by the constitutional requirement to enable effective accountability while simultaneously maintain transparency and openness. For the Speaker to deviate from the principle of openness, it must be established that an open ballot is not likely to ensure effective accountability, and that circumstances exist that would most likely prevent a free expression of the will of the members of the National Assembly. Honorable members, I have considered the request for a vote by secret ballot and have communicated my decision and the reasons for my decision in this regard. It is sufficient. Please lower your hand until I finish, please. It is sufficient to reiterate that a parliamentary environment is always a highly politicized space and can never be entirely free of political tensions, either between or even within parties. I do not believe that the atmosphere is so toxified or so highly charged that members of the Assembly would be prevented from exercising their vote on this question in accordance with their conscience using an open voting procedure. This is borne out by the various views that have been freely and publicly expressed over the last days. I further wish to reiterate that an open and transparent procedure followed by the Assembly to exercise this important decision on the Section 89 Independent Panel Report can only bring about public trust and confidence in the National Assembly and our democratic dispensation. I therefore stand by my decision to decline the request for a vote by secret. Honorable members, order. Yes, Honorable Shibambu.
We want to stand to reject that decision, and then we want to express that through a vote. That can we be allowed to vote on whether we can use secret ballot or not. So we are proposing, family, that before we proceed with this process, we should be allowed to vote on your decision now.
It's a point of order, Honorable Shibambu.
It's an issue that we have to then deal with in the particular fashion. Please.
There's a point of order. Honorable member, yes, you have the floor.
We are proposing division of the House on that question.
Please take your seat. I've noted you made your point.
And the division must be secret as well.
No, please take your seat, Honorable member. Honorable member, please. Honorable member. Honorable member, behind the mic here. Behind the podium. Yes, you may have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Peggy Hadebe, Rule 8, Sub-Rule 3 and Sub-Rule 2, read in conjunction with Rule 92, Sub-Rule 11. Speaker may make rulings and all members are obliged to comply with the rulings. The ruling of the Speaker cannot be questioned, challenged or questioned in this House. I so move. Thank you.
Speaker.
I thank you, Honorable Member.
Speaker.
Hold on, Honorable Members.
Speaker,
I've
been raising my hand.
I've seen you and I noted you. Take a seat. Sit down. Take a seat. Honorable Zungula, take a seat.
Don't shout.
Take your seat. I will give you an opportunity. Take a seat. Take your seat.
Do not shout.
Take your seat.
Do not shout.
Honorable members, Honorable Malema, Honorable shouting actually, Honorable Malema, you are. You know what? I am not going to allow you to disrupt this session. I will not. You can rest assured. Honorable Zungula, you'll recall that earlier on I did say that I noted your hand. You may now take the floor. Thank you.
Speaker.
Honorable Malema, please provide leadership. You shouted first. Salapansi, Tula. Take the floor, Honorable Zungula.
Speaker, I think the first thing you must not do, Speaker, do not note me and then you note other people and then after you come back to me and you shout. That is the first thing. The second thing, Speaker, is that the powers of Speaker do not belong to you personally. You must not use your personal views on how a decision is taken in Parliament, because the powers that you have belong to the people of our country. The Constitutional Court ruled that under such circumstances, there are threats, Speaker, that members of the ruling party have been given by their chairperson, that should they vote differently towards the party instruction, they are going to be expelled.
Order, honorable members, I can hardly hear. Honorable members, please allow me, I have to hear, I can't hear. Yes, Honorable Zungula.
So there are existing threats, Speaker. The chairperson, who is a minister, is here, can confirm that he has threatened members of Parliament. If they vote differently from what they've decided as a party, they are going to be expelled. How can you say that is not reason enough to grant a secret ballot? We've got Honorable Nyonso, who also received a death threat. He's gone to the police station to open a case. Why don't you think that is reason enough to grant a secret ballot?
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable Mr. Klaso, there's something wrong with the system. There is something wrong with the system. I can hardly hear from here. Thank you. Honorable members, I have made a ruling, honorable members, and I propose that we proceed with the debate on this matter. We proceed with the debate on this matter and allow for parties to express their views on the matter, and once done, sounds better. Once done, you then make the remarks which you had already uttered, Honorable Shivam. The point is, all parties who had written to the Speaker has since responded to all of the matters which you raised and referred parties to a decision of the National Programming Committee, which we had, where parties proposed on their own. It was actually proposed by the chief whip of the majority opposition party, that we should go the route of a roll call. And they were supported by the chief whip of the EFF and other honorable members. And what I have since done as Speaker, honorable members, please allow me to finish, because I am recapping the events of the past few days. And since then, the decision of the Speaker stood. Subsequently, I received letters from various parties who were part of that National Programming Committee, which took a decision on how this vote will be conducted. And therefore, honorable members, you must have noted that in those letters I did remind you about the decisions which we took. And it is on the basis of that, honorable members, that I am requesting that we proceed with the debate on this matter. The report is before you. You have all read the report, and I am sure your parties have afforded you the opportunity to discuss the report, and therefore you should be ready to engage on the contents of the report. That is all, honorable members, I am proposing. Point of order, honorable member.
Thank you, Chair. There is a point that is being raised here, that by the time you wrote a letter rejecting a secret ballot, there was no death threat. There are members of parliament after your letter who received death threats and a case has been opened. And you can't proceed as if there's not been this development between your letter and now. We understand the threat by this minister who swallowed the cameras of Busasa, who's threatening his own members. On top of the swallow of Busasa cameras, there is another threat where members of parliament have received death threats from the underworld which these people are working with, that if we vote in the opposite, we are going to be killed. That development, when you wrote the letter rejecting a secret ballot, was not there. And it is on the basis of that we are rising here now, that you may want to reconsider your decision because there are these developments which were not there when you wrote your letter, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Malema. Honorable members, order. Order. Just as a reminder, I have received, no man, you can't make reference to somebody being a liar here now. Honorable members, in all the letters which I have received from political parties who are appealing the decision of the NCA, of the National Programming Committee, none of this information was contained in that report. Yes, correct. Now I am saying, honorable members, thank you. Honorable members, I'm informed by Mr. Kaso that this morning there was a case which was reported to the police. Honorable members, please, man, let's not be rowdy, just listen. Allow me to finish. I have made a determination on the basis of your own submissions. I've also made a determination on the basis of the National Programming Committee meeting which we held last week, right? Now, and I did apply my mind to that. And I took a decision based on the submissions, but also based on the decision of the NAPC. And now, the police, I am informed by Mr. Kaso, are currently investigating that matter. So that matter right now is not a subject for discussion. What we are discussing is the report before us, honorable members. That is what we are seized with now. It is the report before us. Honorable, there was Khatebe, did I recognize you? Okay. Yes, Honorable Mente.
Speaker, when we wrote to you, this development was not there. And you are correct, you responded to us on the basis of the facts we put before you. Immediately after we have received your response, there was this development. Now, we are going to suggest that let's take 5 minutes, go and apply your mind and come back with a new ruling. People are going to die and you are going to have blood in your hands. Because when they vote against what the Minister of Minerals threatened about, they are going to be killed. And their blood is going to be in your hands.
Honorable members, order. Order, Honorable Ntlangwini, please. Honorable members, you have made reference to a statement made by the Honorable Minister of Minerals. I do not want to talk to a matter which has nothing to do with me. However, However, honorable members, I do not recall that in the statement there was a death threat to anyone. Can we correct that? Can we correct that? There was no death threat directed at any one of you and us by the chairperson. There may have been other things which he said, but I do not recall reading or hearing that the chairperson has threatened people with death. I do not recall that. That man you were referring to. Honorable Zungula.
Speaker,
Yes, Honorable Zungula.
when you responded, Speaker, to our
Followed
letters,
by Honorable Khatebe.
when you responded to our letter, Speaker, you never dealt with the issue of the national chairperson who was threatening members of parliament. In all of your letters and responses, that has not been addressed. That is the first thing. The second thing, Speaker, is that last night, members of parliament received death threats via SMS stating should they vote in favor of the report, their days are numbered. That is last night. Now, I want to come to you again, Speaker, and say I agree with the submission by Honorable Mende. If you want to take 5 minutes to apply your mind again, please do so. But your decision that the voting method today will be via an open method, that decision is irrational. That decision, Speaker, does not take into account the circumstances that we find ourselves in, where members are threatened on their lives, they are threatened on their livelihoods. So please apply your mind once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. There's a hand there. I'm sorry, Honorable Member there. Yes, please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Khatebe, I was referring to
Is it
that
Khatebe
member
or
there.
myself?
Sorry, Honorable Pando. Honorable Member. Oh, Honorable Pando, you may proceed. Honorable Khatebe now is...
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise in terms of the rules, both with respect to how we should address honorable members of the House. You allowed, Honorable Speaker, members to refer to Honorable Dlakude as Doris, which is unparliamentary in terms of the rules. Secondly, you have allowed that aspersions should be cast or can be cast against the Minister of Minerals and Energy. As far as I'm aware, there is no chairperson of the ANC in this House. There is Honorable Mantashe, who's an elected member of Parliament. And I would ask, Speaker, that given these spurious points of order by people who are afraid that their Phantom 42 will be proven to be phantom, they are now merely misleading the House and delaying a debate they know they have lost. I therefore request you to allow the House to proceed, Honorable Speaker.
I thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Members. Yes, Honorable Khatib.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm also rising on the point of order of Rule 85. There were aspersions which were cast on the Minister of this House, Honorable Mantashe. I think that whatever was raised against him, it can only be done through the substantive motion. So I think that there must be a ruling around that. Number 2, Chair, Honorable Zungula is not a shop steward of the ANC. He cannot come and tell us how we run our organization. ANC has got its own system of dealing with these things. So a leader of a 2-member party cannot tell a gigantic organization like the ANC how it should run its affairs. So we must get off, we must deal with this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Members, A matter has been raised here by Honorable Pando, and I must say that I missed that. I did not hear. Maybe it was at a time when there was a problem with the system, and I will therefore study the Hansard. And once I have studied the Hansard, I will rule on the matter. Honorable members, hold on, honorable member. I had noted a member right at the back. I'm sorry, honorable member, that I've not, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Sit down, Honorable Kyanji. You did not have your hand up. Honorable member.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise in terms of Rule 92.
Honorable members, please order.
Can you call me away? Come. I rise in terms of Rule 92, subsection 3, that when a member rises to address this House, must mention the point in terms of the rules of the National Assembly upon which he rises. Now, there is a request from my far right that some self-appointed shop stewards have been making reflections on the discussions that we had earlier on as a movement called the African National Congress. It is incorrect for people to speak on our behalf. It is wrong for people to suggest that we have been threatened if they are not bringing that as a substantive motion as per Honorable Khatib. Let us not be subjected to political gymnastics and people who are dreaming about some discussions that they are afraid to undertake. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, honorable member. Honorable members, I am now ruling on this matter. And that ruling is that I have allowed you adequate time to raise at times spurious points of order, and I will not allow for a continuation of that now. I now rule that we proceed with the debate on the report, honorable members. Honorable members, we now proceed with the debate on the independent panel report, and I now call on the Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Somlomo obekekileyo. Somlomo obekekileyo. Usekela Mongameli, amalungi onke ombutho akhoyo apha namalungu eParlamente. Namhlanje amahlo esizwe athentsho kule ngxoxo mpikiswano ngomba obaluleke kakhulu kwimbali yendlu yowiso noqingqo mthetho nakwisizwe soMzantsi Afrika ngokubanzi. Siphawula ngengxelo yophando olwenziwe ligqiza elizimeleyo leenkcuba buchopho zomthetho malunga nebholo lokubiwa kwemali kwifama kamongameli umnumzana uCyril Matamela Ramaphosa. Kokokuqala ezimbalini zalendlu ukuba sixoxa ngokususa umongameli esihlalweni sakhe phantsi kwemigaqo yalendlu esekezelwe kwisolotya 89 ke ngoko esikwenzayo namhlanje.
All right, you're watching the proceedings in the South African Parliament, where we have just seen the Speaker of Parliament, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, just defended her decision for today's vote to be done by an open vote. Of course, this was met by severe opposition from the EFF and the African Transformation Movement. And this was because they had raised alarm that several members of the ruling party had been threatened by the chairperson of the party, Gwede Mantashe with punishment if they do not vote along party lines. Gwede Mantashe himself was present and dramatically waved off these accusations. Speaking now, presenting the opening argument, is Pemi Majodina, who is the ANC chief whip. However, we are now going to bring in our Arise South African correspondent, Xolisi Masango, to unpack what is currently going on in the South African Parliament. Xolisi, are you there? All right, well, while we wait for Xolisi, of course, we all know that this is a landmark decision that will come out of Parliament today, as it will determine whether President Cyril Ramaphosa will have to face the Impeachment Committee. This is all because of the Phala Phala Farmgate scandal, where millions of dollars were said to have been found stuffed in a sofa in his farm.
Nantoni na esiyenzayo kule ndlu kufuneka ibe semthethweni kuba sithi abaqulunqi bomthetho asikwazi ukukekela ke sizenze unonkala sihambe ngokwemfuno zamaqela aphikisayo kuba wona efuna isiphumo esithile kudala sibacenga ogxa bethu into yoba ukuba ngaba nifuna ulawulo makubhekwe ebantwini evotini khona ukuze nibuye nilawule kakuhle ngoqinisekileyo ke le nkqubo sikuyo ekugqibeleni iza kugqitywa ngento yoba sivote into yoba ngobani abayixhasayo nabangayixhasi le ngxelo ngoko ke kukho abanenjongo.
We have our South Africa correspondent Xolisi Masango. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you can hear us loud and clear in the midst of all that's going on with Parliament, Xolisi.
Indeed, I can hear you loud and clear. As you can see there, that's the chief whip of the ruling party. That's Pemi Majodina, first up in the podium. And of course, she's just going through some of the, points which they say are not basis for the president to be removed from his seat. So basically right now in this course, I'm just saying that they feel that, some of the opposition party members are grasping at straws, essentially saying that they're really trying to nitpick on a crime that did not even happen. And I don't know if there was evidence, what she says right now in this course, are just going on to also explain, telling the nation, or rather telling Parliament as well, that this debate is not even necessary. The mere fact that they're having this debate right now is cause for concern that, people will be listening to hearsay, people will be listening to rumors and making it as a basis to convene an entire Parliament. And this is also at the back of all of that commotion that we had just now before the debate itself started in Parliament. So basically, it's now the chief whip, Pemi Majodina of the ruling party, just nitpicking, and poking holes on some of the allegations that were made by some of the opposition parties, especially when it comes to this particular matter relating to Phala Phala and the president.
Now, Xolisi, I think the biggest shadow that's being cast today is the choice by the Speaker of Parliament for this to be an open vote. We saw that's taken up most of the proceedings of the day. Do you think that she's fumbled this entire process by standing firm and saying that it must be an open vote, despite all of the opposition that we saw coming towards her?
Look, for me, I really think it's sheer theatrics. When you look at how this particular process has played out back in the day when it was still with President Jacob Zuma and his vote of no confidence as well. It's usually a cat and mice back and forth at the same place, with just each party trying to prove their muscle in Parliament. So I think it's neither here nor there that they'd be sitting right now and really debating whether or not this particular debate or vote should be happening via open or closed ballot. And we heard there Honorable Zungula of the ATM, who stood up earlier. He's one of the parties that called for this particular secret ballot to take place. But of course, his motion was turned down when we heard that Parliament would be, not hearing this matter by a secret ballot, but rather everybody's vote would be known. We've seen this throughout the course of that point when President Jacob Zuma was going through his own troubles in Parliament. This particular time is a time when these opposition parties try to flex their muscles, and you have the Speaker of Parliament coming out and saying, no, the buck stops with me now. This is what I'll be doing, and we will not be allowing any secret ballots. And I wonder some of the reasons that they normally state that, in fairness and in transparency, it ensures that people are able, we get to know who voted how. And this also, what they've also said, some of the opposition parties, was that they feel like they're opening themselves up for victimization if someone's vote is known. So it's not a new debate that they're having around the secret ballots. It's really not a new debate, and we're actually going to be seeing more of it as more of these scandals continue to unravel, particularly in the public domain.
Well said, Mkolisi. Now, I saw this interesting article regarding this case. It was written by a Nigerian journalist, goes by the name Martins Oloja, and he drew lessons for African leaders based on what's happening with Ramaphosa. Now, I just want to point out 2 points that he made, and you can flesh them out if you want to. In it, he said that 2 institutions, one, law enforcement and the legislature, must be made to work for democracy, to deliver dividends to the citizens. And it can also be seen from the South African examples that you don't require any anti-corruption agencies to institute accountability and transparency mechanisms for a system to work. What further lessons can we draw from what's happening with Ramaphosa's case as a continent?
As a tongue-in-cheek moment, I think most governments can actually learn a lesson where you have, in particular cases such as this one, where you have the people that are expected to be, meting out the law, the institutions that are expected to be ensuring accountabilities are the ones that play a player and play a referee at the same time. There's no way such processes are going to work speedily, and there's no way that justice will be dispensed in a free and fair manner when you have such institutions that are expected to be ensuring accountability play a referee and also other player as well in the field. So it would seem that a certain level of independence is required from the side of governments. A certain level of independence is also required from the side of the judiciary, the system that is expected to be watching out for the interests of the state as well as the interests of the people to also ensure accountability. So a certain level of conversations, high-key conversations, need to be had amongst governments to ensure that we have institutions that are independent and are also impartial at the same time when dispensing such important duties.
Now, currently speaking at Parliament, we see leader of the DA, John Steenhuisen. Now, the DA have been a bit flip-floppy with regards to their communication about this issue. What are your expectations from the DA with regards to today's vote?
Well, the first question should be, are they going to have enough numbers to ensure that, their point gets across? I mean, there was a statement by Sibiwe Gwahube, who is from the Democratic Alliance. She said that, given some of their numbers, they're not sure if they're going to be able to really have this particular motion hold water. This is also at a particular time. Well, there she is. She's even seated there already. She's taken her seat. She said that the DA's numbers are not really looking well right now as far as this motion of no confidence, or rather this vote against the president is concerned right now. So it would be interesting to see how they're really going to navigate around this debate, particularly looking at the fact that their numbers might not be able to hold waters as far as this particular vote is concerned in Parliament.
Well said, Mkolisi. Now, based on the fact that you're local and we're basically outsiders looking in, I'd like you to walk us through how this is going to play out. Once the impeachment proceedings conclude, what's next, regardless of what decision they come to?
Well, we'd expect naturally, of course, to have the chief whips convene and also, just particularly map a way forward as far as this is concerned, because removing a president is no child's play. So from there, it would have to be discussions around how they're going to be navigating around this. But I doubt that by the end of today, we'd be having a conversation around President Cyril Ramaphosa being removed as a president. So it's highly unlikely at this particular point in time from where I'm sitting right now and looking at the odds. It really does seem like a far-fetched dream for the opposition parties. Also, let's also bear in mind that this is just days before that National Elective Conference of the African National Congress convenes and starts, its work on this coming weekend. So it's really trying times for the party itself, especially when we look at that this particular conference is going to be sitting from this week and what is actually going to come around that. So one would also assume that from a position, from the vantage point that we have right now, it's just politicking. And as the ANC has put it right now in Parliament, they called it political gymnastics. It is a case of just the various political parties just flexing muscle, but also what's also important is that we must not lose sight that it's the plight of South Africans that is also at play right now, how this benefits or does not benefit the South African, whom the African National Congress is running with a mandate from to better the lives of people. Are they doing that right now? No, it doesn't look like that. It looks like they're fighting more to keep their positions there.
And, like you rightfully said, this is the first of so many proceedings, so many reports that need to be answered to. Let's shift our attention to the Integrity Commission report. Of course, Cyril Ramaphosa is still going to have to face this through the ANC NEC at the conference. Now, we know that Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma were removed from their presidency within the party before they were removed from national presidency. Do you think that possibly Gwede Mantashe is masterminding a strategy where he can save the ANC the disgrace of having a sitting president removed? And possibly is it possible to see that the Integrity Commission might in fact recommend a step aside or a leave of absence where we see Cyril Ramaphosa relieved of his duties as the ANC president and allow that then to go into the external national process that comes after? How likely is it that this is just the ANC trying to save face?
Look, I think first of all, we'd also have to look at the muscle that the Integrity Commission itself pulls. I think we can all be in agreement that most politicians, rather, who have been subjected to the work of the Integrity Commission have on many occasions said that it's just a mere kangaroo court. So when you look at the composition of some of the members right now, such as Gwede Mantashe, as actually mentioned, you would say that if they're going to be serving in an executive committee like they do right now, serving in the top 6 of the ruling party, their task right now is to ensure that they drive the odds towards the president. They drive the odds to favor the president right now, because these are the people who are steering the ship in the top 6 for the party. And their central mandate is to ensure that they are the anchors and ensure that they pull out all strings to ensure that the leader comes out, scot-free in this particular matter. But also when you look at the Integrity Commission and the work that they've done over the past couple of years, it doesn't look like a glowing track record at all. So we really have to keenly keep an eye and watch in terms of how they're going to be able to dispense their duty at the same time and not offend South Africans.
Thankfully, you just said South Africans. That's the premise to my next question, Nkolisi. Analysts are saying that this scandal makes people see, that South African people, of course, see ANC as a party that is incapable of dealing with corruption and will cause long-term deterioration of legitimacy and trust in the ANC. Please tell us what regular South Africans are saying, but just before that, we're going to go back to the proceedings regarding the impeachment of the South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa, and hold that thought, Nkolisi. We'll be right back.
Constitution without fail. Today, 26 years after you held Nelson Mandela's hand, lifted our Constitution high into the air, you stand as the greatest enemy of constitutionalism and accountability. As a so-called architect of the Constitution, you have resolved to take Parliament of South Africa to court to avoid constitutional obligation of accountability. As a so-called crafter of our democratic dispensation, you are accused of engaging in activities that characterized a criminal underworld. As a so-called champion of accountability to masses of our people, you today avoid scrutiny and questioning like a fugitive. Mr. President, your reluctance to allow inquiry into the activities of Phala Farm are shocking and concerning. You are so desperate to avoid any type of investigation into the crimes that have occurred at and in relation to Phala Farm that you have decided to spit in the face of the freedoms and institutions so many fought and died for. It is concerning because it means worse has happened in the farm that you do not want people of South Africa to know. Instead of using the process of the impeachment inquiry to clear your name, you have mobilized your party to fight against an attempt to discover the truth of what happened in Palapala farm. Mr. President, you stand accused of theft from the people of South Africa. You stand accused of violating your oath of office and of violating the Constitution. You have stashed money in mattresses and allegedly avoided paying taxes. It is now accepted fact that you did not declare millions of foreign currency kept in your sofas to the South African Reserve Bank. It is now an undeniable fact that you have engaged in paid work while occupying the office of the President of South Africa. It is an undenied fact that your answers regarding Palapala farm are unreliable because they change depending on the audience you speak to. It has become clear that you have no intention of taking responsibility for the crimes of Palapala farm, because at every opportunity you blame vulnerable staff members of the crimes, staff members who can only operate under your instructions. If you are not blaming staff, you are compromising investigative institutions and casting aspersion on those who make damning findings. You have degenerated and you are clinching to power under the instruction of a faction that is desperate to control the levers of state power at the expense of the people of this country. Mr. President, I want to remind you that I warned you of surrounding yourself with yes men and women who will ill-advise you in the interest of their stomach. I warned you that you should not allow factionalism to dictate the decision you take when it comes to South Africa. I warned you that the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers will not be there to defend you when we ask you to account for the decisions you implement on their behalf. I warned you of how patronizing factions can be because they will never tell you the truth. Now you have decided to take your very own parliament to court because you have allowed factions to guide your decision-making instead of your integrity and conscience. You have engaged in questionable activities such as alleged laundering of money, the abduction of suspects of crime, the misuse of state resources because the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers made you feel like you are untouchable. Today, we are touching you because you are not in the pockets of your faction or your handlers. We are touching you because we knew that white monopoly capital will use you and toss you aside. Mr. President, you should be ashamed that you have become the enemy of what so long defined your legacy. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, we declare without fear of contradiction that you are an enemy of the Constitution of South Africa. From today, you will be treated like a real constitutional delinquent. No amount of numbers...
You're currently listening to Julius Malema, who is the president of the Economic Freedom Fighters, as he gives forward his argument at the South African Parliament during the proceedings for the Parliament is deciding whether or not Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, should face the impeachment committee.
If their president is not in the pocket...
All right, so this is Vimbai Mutiniri Epeyong.
Thanks for joining us on Newsday. I'm Cynthia Arre. Temitokwe Fagbemi and Hawamu Khan are standing by for the next 2 hours. Please stay with us.
An opportunity to choose an individual over the Constitution of South Africa, to choose thuggerism over accountability. But all of you must know that history will judge you harshly. It is this man who held the hand of Nelson Mandela and said the Constitution of South Africa is above all of us. Today is the same man who's peeing on the Constitution of South Africa. Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable. I thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite Honorable... There's a point of order, yes?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm rising on Rule 84. The member who was on the platform spoke unparliamentary language concerning the President. in particular when he said that it is something to the Constitution. I cannot repeat it myself. He said it is something to the Constitution. I cannot repeat it myself. Thank you.
Uthini? Okay, thank you very much. Honorable members, please allow me to caution you on your language as you debate. Honorable members, I request you to mind your language as we debate this matter. I now proceed and I invite Ubaba Ubuthelezi. Baba Ubuthelezi.
Honorable Speaker, on the 15th of February 2018, our newly appointed president stood before us and declared that a wonderful new dawn had arrived. He instructed, and I quote, that we should put behind us the era of diminishing trust in the public and institutions and weakening confidence in our country's leaders. We should put behind us negativity that has dogged our country because the new dawn is upon us, close quote. He was clear that this new dawn was a shift away from what he soon called 9 wasted years under his predecessor, a shift away from corruption, away from abuse of power, away from unethical leadership, and away from deception. So as news broke of Phala theft, there was only one way to describe South Africa's response, and that was disappointment. Dearly wanting to believe in the new dawn, some clung to the hope that the president has done nothing wrong. Thus, a second wave of disappointment washed over our country 2 weeks ago as the report of Section 89 panel found that the president indeed has a case to answer. The IFP has considered the report of the independent panel, and we believe that it could not have come to any other conclusion based on the information before it. We therefore support the recommendations of the report as the IFP. We wish to thank our former Chief Justice Stanley Ngcobo and the panel he led for performing a very difficult task objectively and giving due care for our country. This panel was established through the Parliament to determine where there was prima facie evidence that the President indeed has a case to answer. Thus, Parliament should set in motion the process of an impeachment committee. Regardless of whatever this right course of action would be defeated by the President's party, regardless of the outcome of the next process, something has broken that cannot be fixed. South Africa cannot trust the President anymore. Worse to this is that this trust was not only to the President, but to the present promise of a new dawn, promising honest leadership. Now we're left asking, is there any among them that is beyond reproach? The temptation is to say, bear the devil you know than the devil you don't. Because for us, President Cyril Ramaphosa was the only hope we had in the ANC. He stood against the factions that fought to impose radical economic transformation at any cost, and in fact, at the cost of our ailing economy. If the President is not exonerated, we fear what will come next. Looking at the possible outcome, it is clear that we should expect the worst. The IFP has deep concern for our country. It is patently clear that there are no longer leaders in the ANC whom we can trust. For what was once a glorious liberation movement has become a morass of moral corruption. I know the pain the IFP founder has, who once served this greatest liberation movement until it abandoned its founding principle. It has placed its cause on a path of a terrible destination, and tragically, Speaker, that destination has been reached. Whatever becomes of the latest stain in the ruling party, we, the people of this country, have been betrayed. The IFP support the report. Thank you.
I thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you. I now invite the Honourable Dr. P.J. Groenewald.
Geachte Speaker, on the 9th of June this year, we had a debate on the Phala issue in this House. Yes, we did. At my advice to the Honourable President was to come and take the public in his confidence and give the answers, because the President is on record where he said that he did nothing wrong, that he didn't break any law. So then it is just common sense that if you have nothing to hide, that you will come forward and take the people of South Africa in your confidence and give the answers. But again, the President decided differently. Now, firstly, there's no doubt that in this whole issue, the decision of the President is not in the best interest of South Africa, but only in the best interest of himself and in the best interest of the ANC. In terms of Section 83 of the Constitution, it says quite clearly that the President must uphold, defend, and respect the Constitution of South Africa.
You're watching a special sitting of South Africa's Parliament that is due to vote on whether to begin impeachment proceedings against President Cyril Ramaphosa. The president is accused of covering up the theft of a large sum of foreign currency from his farm in 2020, some of which had been hidden in a sofa. The debate will focus on an independent report which concluded he may have violated the Constitution.